America by Nicolas Carras, read by John M. Bennett. When you enter poetry, you enter civilization. This is where everything starts. That's where everything is played out. This is where you will lead your first battle, and that's where you'll get your first victory. The poet. America, the lost island, the holy land of myriads of mysteries. Holy, hearts detached from the bodies, tightrope, lively, carcass. The whole landscape, like a blanket hidden below, the subterranean rustling. Holy, holy, the whole surface in the chest, a breath of the heavens. Hope, not a pipe dream, in the flesh itself, of that which extends to the horizon, and even above the sky. In the flesh, where the concept of time is, not as an abstraction, palpable. There was no misconception here, no stuck eagle, in the cave, in the ice, very deep. I observed, hunter, worried, the hand gripping the earth, grasped, holy, holy, the wind spoke a comprehensible language as a French silent avalanche. In memory, hand over the country's first wooden fence, metallic mirages, forests of phosphorus, I was the bear waiting for you. Impatient, quivering life, holy the crackling stone, rocks fallen from the kingdom itself to accumulate there. Savage, savage, you drank from this river, and you let yourself be stung by a scorpion. Magnificence, magnificence, angel of the azure, either of this land, essence flowed through your veins, the snake raised its head, did not wonder, the dry grass did not move, the shudder came from which one does not know where. The area remained unmoved. The deep country did not quiver. The prairie schooner rolled, the horse rode, the palisade rose, the fire was consumed, the table was set, and the church was built. The great celestial synagogue was imagined. How many meteorites, what shards did frozen lakes come from? How hard was the ground? The iron circle resisted, as well as the fairy shoes, as well as the wood of the hoof, as well as the bare foot of the child revealing the immensity. The heart itself, the muscle itself. No star lighting up the night had known apocalypses. The small European orchestra in the middle of nowhere, which was the somewhere, the one and only, in the body, played the little improvised melody. Never seen, never imagined, this campfire, this starry sky, as well as the small troop of children who couldn't sleep, far from the adults, lying in the bright night, who had never been so bright, maybe in Scotland, in the north. Every noise was a surprise that the ear loved, every breeze was a thrill, every star accompanied a breath, shooting star, an extreme joy. The mother watched it all with one eye, she was happy. The little improvised melody ceased, like a whole, an absolute, the heart was the heart. There was no basement here, no back world, the soul confronted with itself. Here we do not flee, the earth always recalls. Soul and earth, a dance always, a pressure on the heart, a formal silence. The aesthetic disappears, just remains a hug, a great friendship with the horizon. The ground spoke, the ground rose up. Like an angel, like a tide angel, it couldn't come back up. It was constantly in this will to rise up, but unceasingly attached to what it was. It was the earth, it could not reach the sky. For there was something before the Constitution itself. It was the landscape that would become American. From the wooden clock lying in the trailer, fine and dry grass, the little beetle raising his head to a conciliatory cloud, worrying toward the European troops, the vigilance. The order of everything here had its unique order. The sun was going to be of an impenetrable reason. The earth was going to offer a reason. The cabin, life-born, the horse of his black eye, the risk, trees, we will build the barrel and the butt of the rifle. Wild, wild of your dust trails. There, like the Alps, reminding of their brilliance, sacred mountain, through this desert, have we not heard a prophecy? The one which said, "It is on this earth that you will die." And nowhere else, in this rock, in that color, in this night, the one that is here and here only. Unique, the fish will be the sin of this river, and this river only. Bear will come from this forest, and of this forest only. Its claws will be only its claws. Everything here will only be here, and from there sadness will come only. There appeared a necessary break, a place for civilization. The sadistic soul had no place there, and the landscape asked no questions. There had to be a place for the soul, for a body with a soul. There had to be a floor for both. The soul had to fit into this somewhere, a center of civilization, a place where there was no volcano, two rivers more violent than a volcano, the moon bigger than ever. Of a being of this soul, American, American, this is how it will be. As the sinner was, such was the sea, such was the boat, such was the coast. It was impossible to miss it. As a child we hid behind its stones, where the moon was the biggest, where the horizon was the thinnest, where the star smiles and enters the eye like absolute truth, where the air was an American air. And the brush, what was it saying? An air of the brushwood, so there was a truth in there. It was from this land that it came out, that which comes from the heart, coming from the blood itself. And that's what the earth said. Every moment is what it said. All poetry is only the poetry of triviality. The wild horses knew it, and the knowledge even seemed to be in the landscape itself, even before any human constitution, a pre-constitution. The wild horses knew this. It was in their hoofs, which came into contact with the ground, produced this extraordinary hubbub, as well as the indefinable bison. They formed an alliance. They weren't just an exotic. Not today, not those of the 17th century, not those of the 18th century, those of the 19th century. Poetry is inscribed neither in reason nor in reality, but enters. There is space between reason and reality, and this is where poetry takes place. The truth, the dust of the wild horse rising up, bearer of hope, the hooves hitting the ground, the vibration the heart heard, everything was silent, the pink light of the sun shone through it. How can you live when you don't understand freedom and poetry? And they imagine that the vast majority of Americans do not understand poetry, which is, of course, totally false. They invented an American who doesn't exist. And I will punish them for it. Believe me, I'll punish them for it. Because I am the chosen one of the chosen one, uncompromising and native, I fly. Me, the elected, the elected, the elected. High rock I contemplate, from east to west, north to south, the expanse. Wind, I knew completeness. Me, the chosen one, the chosen one, the chosen one, I know before, even from anteriority and the time after, above the American plains. We were running, juxtaposed to the mountain. The eagle was following. The eagle was always somewhere in our presence. What was so dreadful about this gentle eagle? Old Chinese sometimes offered us sweets. Sitting there on the sidewalk, the big silk, the big steamer, the big coal, big business, the shiny new rail, the sweat reflected in the sun. The dust intrinsic to the landscape, the bush of his life did not listen, did not know, like a threat. The tune of the Mexican guitar, all on the American farm, the beautiful and tall, its beautiful field, its merry band, its shotgun. The great deer turning its head towards us, at its feet the eternal mushroom basket. The great American was talking. The hands squeezed life. The goats clung to the mountain. The grass quivered alone by the earthly wind, but held on. The great European column felt all of this. The Bourgeois was sleeping in his cave. The American poetry was born. When is the wooden church bell, the dirt street, the lover, the bouquet? The great battle, the beautiful reaper, great technology, freestone raises the city, the bridge is a beautiful work. The high bell is from the hand, the woodwork seems a miracle. Wolves had no mercy, the fire and the snow did not catch, hope lasted until death and man. The field and its straight path, its hunter, the buzzard in the heights. The disappearance of the wind is wrongly the reason for aesthetics. The landscape stops. But in the large painting, the wind is present. It does not disappear, so there is no aesthetic. There is no aesthetic where the wind is. The Ford tractor was new, from which pride can be born. Low feelings were silent, remained in their boxes. The sun rose from the great Nevada for the very first time, and all the sadness ceased. Freedom was born and took on meaning with its sister, revenge, and birth, intense joy. Calmness, we had to continue west. In the eyes of a beast, the origin of an angel, he had already surveyed every square meter. America was in the landscape, even before the birth of the country. The one and only place where the roses sang was America. If the world is, it is because it has had the freedom to be. As I have written many times before, freedom is nothing if it stays in the books. Freedom only has meaning when it is inscribed in the air in a substantial reality, namely that freedom pre-exists its own definition, which means that it exists even before the appearance of the human being. The concept of freedom arose out of observation. Adam and Eve are free from God. If there is a question to ask and to rest concerning God, it is in the Genesis. Whoever wrote Genesis asked within it the greatest question about God that anyone on this earth has ever asked, the biggest and the most magnificent. He was a Hebrew. And this is how love unites with freedom. No love without freedom, no freedom without love. Love and freedom are intrinsically linked, both assuming an ethic, and this is how ethics unites with love and freedom, all assuming a determination, and this is how determination unites with ethics, love, and freedom. And what about God in all of this? His creation having escaped him. Is God united with determination, ethics, love, and freedom? The point is that determination needs God. Some today still cannot understand how Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel. The answer is that Michelangelo strongly believed in God, and that belief gave him energy, strength, a force beyond human understanding. This is how. It must be part of a substantial reality, of a triviality. It is from a triviality. Is God in the mind or in the heart? It is in the heart and in the mind, knowing that there can be no heart without a spirit, nor a spirit without a heart. It is not good that after sadness comes despair. It is better that the rage come. The scary thing about poetry is the loneliness, an intense loneliness that seems to have absolutely no other meaning than the necessity it carries, poetry. And what meaning in poetry? Isn't it more than of the mind, a will of the heart? What is poetry is one question. Why poetry is another. There can be no civilization without poetry, and there can be no poetry without triviality, which is in it, its own transcendence, where aesthetics cannot be. It's triviality in the poem that descends, not aesthetics. In any case, aesthetics has nothing to do with poetry. Poetry exists before aesthetics and never needed it to be. Somehow it is the quality of the triviality that makes the quality of the poem. The poet must be a being of triviality, not a being of aesthetics. All the rest will be sewing. Aesthetics is a corruption in beauty. Beauty has never needed the aesthetics. Recent concept in the history of the beauty, to be. The Big Freighter. The statue was not looking. The sea heard nothing. The children were playing. The platform was not waiting. The city equal to itself. The children were playing. The suburb had been enlarged, trees had been planted, the impassive dog, the well-kept gardens. The plain continued towards itself, its grass was growing, the children were playing. The forces of evil destroy the depth, the forces of good are smooth, below are the depths, they are therefore smooth and deep. That's the good. It's the smooth and deep at the same time. Evil is not even Baroque. It doesn't even know what Baroque is. It's not even a stormy sea, whose every moment is smooth and deep at the same time. The tumultuous blue shocks by this. It carries within it the sea of oil. And the monsters hiding there to rule the sea, whether it is oil or stormy. What did we forget? What didn't we register? Nothing. We hadn't forgotten anything, and we had everything written down in the foam itself, in a totality, nothing left out, and everything written down. Sing the hymn, sadness carries on. Beautiful American assembly, don't leave my heart. Oh, Captain, my Captain. Is God good? Of course he's good. If he had been bad, the question would never have arisen. Fin.